Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our presentation on trace elements in the environment, impacts, and management. Today, we'll be exploring the important roles these trace elements play, particularly in paint and soil, as well as the potential risks they pose and the strategies we can use for their effective management and remediation. I'm excited to share this crucial information with you and discuss how we can work toward a safer environment together. Trace elements are elements found in very small amounts in the environment, usually less than 100 milligrams per kilogram in soil or living tissues. Examples include metals like lead, cadmium, and chromium. Even though they occur in tiny amounts, monitoring these trace elements is crucial because they can have significant effects on both the environment and our health. Some of these elements can build up in organisms over time, which might lead to toxicity. On the other hand, certain trace elements are essential for biological processes. By understanding where these elements are and how they behave, we can better manage pollution risks and maintain the balance of ecosystems. When we talk about trace elements, it's important to distinguish between essential and toxic ones. Essential trace elements like zinc, copper, and selenium are vital in small amounts. They play crucial roles in supporting enzyme function, metabolism, and overall health across plants, animals, and humans. On the other hand, toxic trace elements such as lead, cadmium, and mercury can be harmful even at very low levels. These often come from sources like industrial emissions, mining activities, or contaminated products. Exposure to these toxic metals can result in serious health issues, including neurological damage and organ dysfunction, as well as harm to the environment. Understanding this difference is key for effective monitoring and pollution control efforts. When we talk about trace elements in paint, one of the key components to understand is pigments. Elements like chromium and cadmium are used to create vibrant colors such as green and red, which really enhance the look and appeal of the paint. Beyond color, some trace elements also act as preservatives and additives. These help prevent microbial growth on painted surfaces, which improves the durability and lifespan of the paint. However, there are environmental risks to consider. When paint breaks down over time or is disposed of improperly, these trace elements can leach into the soil and water, posing potential health hazards. Because of this, it's crucial to carefully balance the benefits and risks through thoughtful formulation and regulation, ensuring both the utility of the paint and the safety of people and the environment. Paint often contains trace elements that, over time, can make their way into the soil. When paint ages and starts to peel, these elements can leach out, entering the soil and potentially accumulating there. This buildup can cause concentrations to rise beyond natural levels, which poses a risk. Such contamination can harm soil health by affecting microbial communities and hindering plant growth. Additionally, disrupted soil functions can have broader implications, impacting organisms throughout the food chain, including humans. That's why it's so important to monitor and manage paint waste carefully to protect our soil quality. Natural soils contain trace elements that come from the parent materials, volcanic activity, and weathering processes. These elements are naturally present, and their levels vary depending on the geographic location. But within any given ecosystem, these concentrations tend to remain relatively stable over time. On the other hand, contaminated soils are affected by human activities. This includes the disposal of paint and industrial waste, mining and smelting operations, and the use of agricultural inputs that contain metals. Such contamination often raises the levels of toxic elements in the soil, which can negatively impact soil fertility, reduce biodiversity, and pose risks to overall environmental health. It's crucial to distinguish between these natural and human-made sources of soil elements, as this helps us accurately assess the risks involved and decide on the best approaches for remediation. When toxic metals enter the soil, they can significantly disrupt the delicate balance of microorganisms that live there. These microbes play a vital role in nutrient cycling, so a reduction in their diversity and activity hampers the soil's natural fertility. Plants, on the other hand, absorb both essential nutrients and harmful trace elements from the soil. This uptake affects not only their growth, but also the quality of the crops we rely on. One major concern is food safety, as toxic elements can accumulate in edible plants, posing health risks to consumers. Additionally, high concentrations of these elements can prevent seeds from germinating properly, limiting plant development from the beginning. Finally, excessive trace elements lead to a reduction in overall plant biomass, which threatens ecosystem stability and reduces agricultural productivity in the long run. Understanding these impacts is crucial for managing soil health and ensuring safe, productive crops. When it comes to monitoring trace elements, spectrometry methods like atomic absorption spectroscopy and inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry are essential. These techniques allow us to measure metal concentrations with high sensitivity, ensuring accurate detection even at very low levels. Alongside these methods, chemical analysis plays a crucial role. By carefully preparing and analyzing soil and paint samples, we can identify not only the types of elements present, but also their specific quantities. This detailed information is vital for understanding contamination. Continuous monitoring is equally important because it helps us track changes in contamination over time. This ongoing data collection is critical for assessing environmental impacts and ultimately informs regulatory standards, ensuring that the levels of harmful elements in paint and soil remain within safe limits. Now, let's look at some effective strategies to tackle soil contamination. First, remediation techniques like soil washing, phytoremediation, and stabilization play a crucial role. These methods either remove contaminants directly or immobilize them, preventing their spread. Next, pollution prevention is essential. Proper disposal and recycling of paint products can significantly reduce the release of harmful substances into the environment. Lastly, regulatory measures are key. By enforcing strict limits on toxic trace elements in paints and industrial waste, we can greatly minimize the sources of contamination right from the start. Together, these approaches provide a comprehensive way to manage and reduce soil pollution. To wrap up, let's review the key takeaways. First, even though trace elements are present in tiny amounts, they play significant roles in health and the environment. It's important to understand the difference between essential elements, which our bodies need, and toxic ones, which pose risks. This distinction is vital for managing potential dangers. Paints are an interesting example, as they use trace elements for coloration and preservation, but they can also release harmful metals into the soil over time. Speaking of soil, contamination directly affects microbial communities, plant growth, and ultimately the safety of the food we eat. Fortunately, advanced monitoring techniques allow us to detect and track these elements effectively, guiding our control measures. Finally, tackling contamination involves combining remediation efforts with strategies to prevent further pollution. For those interested in exploring this topic more, I recommend diving into resources on environmental chemistry, soil science, and toxicology related to trace elements.